You keep trying to make life move forward. But what if reality only moves when you stop pulling it toward you? What if the moment you loosen your grip is the moment the world begins to lean in your direction? The strange truth is this: reality does not open when you demand a result to complete you. It opens when you no longer need the result to feel complete. There is a quiet turning point inside you. The moment you stop tying your sense of wholeness to an outcome, the invisible walls around that outcome begin to thin. Not because you surrendered your dream, but because you changed the signal you were sending. Wanting pulls the mind forward. Being settled brings the whole system into harmony. One creates inner friction, the other creates inner order. And it is this inner order that allows reality to take shape. From a deeper perspective, possibilities float in uncertainty until something within you becomes steady. That stabilizing force is not desire. It is the consistency of the state you live from. When your inner world keeps swinging between hope and doubt, urgency and expectation, nothing can anchor. Everything stays in motion. Nothing commits to form. But when the system softens, when the body is no longer bracing for arrival or disappointment, something shifts. The field senses readiness. Not readiness to receive a thing, but readiness to be at ease with whatever arrives. This is where many people misunderstand the process. Life is not testing how patient you are. It is reflecting how attached you are. Attachment pulls your identity out of the present and places it in a future moment. And when your sense of self lives in a future that has not arrived, the present moment feels lacking. Reality only mirrors what is present. It does not run ahead of you into imagined tomorrows. This is why things often fall into place when you stop expecting them. You were not less worthy a moment before. You were simply less settled inside. When your inner climate becomes stable, the outer world reorganizes around that stability. The logic feels backwards to the mind. The mind associates control with safety, so release feels dangerous. But release is not inaction. It is the end of interference. It is the choice to stop gripping the direction of life so tightly that the system cannot recalibrate on its own. Notice how insight arrives after you loosen your mental grip. How answers surface when you stop forcing clarity. How connections appear when you are no longer hovering over your phone waiting for a message. This is not coincidence. It is the operating rhythm of reality. Movement happens when pressure dissolves. This does not mean you become still in your life. It means your movement is no longer fueled by a sense of lack. You act, but without contraction. You choose, but without inner strain. And this subtle shift is enough to change how the world responds to you. As this backward law unfolds, another question naturally rises. If wanting and effort are not the true trigger, what is? The answer can feel unsettling at first, because it takes control away from the mind and places it somewhere deeper. In the body, in the nervous system, in the state you occupy before a single thought forms. Reality does not read your words. It does not decode your intentions. It responds to your level of regulation. When you long for something intensely, your body often enters a quiet state of alertness. Even when you label it excitement or motivation, the nervous system feels it as anticipation, and anticipation is another name for waiting. Waiting is the message that what you seek is not here. So the system holds you at the edge of arrival, close enough to feel the promise, not settled enough to cross into presence. The mind tells itself that it is moving forward, but the body is still whispering not yet. And reality does not respond to the story in your head. It responds to the signal living in your nervous system. This is where the backward nature of the universe becomes more visible. The question is no longer, how can I make this happen faster? The real question becomes, what would my system feel like if this were already complete? Not imagined as emotion, felt as embodiment, because the body collapses distance in ways the mind never can. When something is resolved internally, the scanning stops. The jaw loosens. The breath drops lower. Attention returns to where your feet actually are. There is no impulse to check for proof. No need to monitor whether progress is being made. That absence of monitoring is not carelessness. It is the quiet signature of completion. Completion has a gravitational quality. Unfinished inner states create static in the field. They add turbulence, and turbulence keeps possibility suspended without letting any one of them take form. When your inner environment is inconsistent, the outer one remains unsettled. Potential stays open, but nothing lands. But when your inner climate becomes steady, probabilities begin to condense. What was diffuse starts to take shape. This is why it can feel as if life ignores those who try the hardest. It is not indifference. It is sensitivity to instability beneath the effort. Effort carries the message that reality must be pushed. Stability carries the message that reality is allowed to move. The backward law becomes clear here. The more you try to persuade life to respond, the more you demonstrate that you are still bracing for what you want. Not because you are unworthy, but because your system is still oriented toward a moment that has not arrived. Reality never meets you in later. It only meets you in now. This is why letting go works on a biological level, not just a spiritual one. Release tells the nervous system that wholeness is no longer dependent on an outcome. When safety is restored internally, there is no longer a reason for life to hesitate. Delays dissolve when the signal becomes coherent. Letting go is often misunderstood. It is not the erasure of desire. Desire can remain alive. What dissolves is dependency. The subtle negotiation with time falls away. The inner contract that says I will be okay when this finally happens begins to loosen. And when that pressure leaves the system, something in reality reorganizes. Backward logic means this: you do not receive because you want. You receive because wanting is no longer organizing your inner posture. The absence of need is not emptiness. It is fullness that is no longer projected into the future. From this state, action changes its texture. You still move, but the movement feels self-evident rather than calculated. Choices arise without emotional weight. You are no longer trying to steer outcomes. You are responding to what is already unfolding. Response travels faster than pursuit. This is where confusion often appears. Many believe they must become passive to stay aligned, but alignment is not inaction. It is non-interference. It is allowing the system to finish what it has already begun. The universe works backwards because inner completion precedes outer arrival. As momentum begins to build, another challenge emerges. People often break this state right as things start to shift. The urge to check, to secure, to make sure it is really happening. And this is the most delicate moment in the entire process. Not when nothing is moving, but when something finally is. Reality rarely announces itself with spectacle. It starts with quiet signals. A response that comes in an unexpected rhythm. A pause that suddenly feels intentional. An interaction that turns gently in a new direction. An opening that is just wide enough to be sensed, but not wide enough to be guaranteed. This is where the old reflex awakens. The mind wants certainty. It wants confirmation. It wants to fasten meaning onto what feels promising. The impulse feels reasonable. It feels like intelligence. It feels like being proactive. But at the level of the field, it is the return of interference. The universe works backwards, and this is the evidence. The moment you try to secure something, you signal that it could be lost. The moment you hurry clarity, you imply fragility. The moment you lean forward emotionally, coherence quietly turns back into anticipation. Anticipation may feel gentle, but it is loud to the field. When anticipation reactivates, the body leaves rest. The shoulders gather tension. Awareness slides out of the present and leans toward outcome. The system prepares for arrival instead of inhabiting now, and reality mirrors that shift instantly. This is why things sometimes pause right when they seem closest. Not because you acted incorrectly on the surface, but because inwardly your posture changed. You move from availability back into waiting. When desire becomes part of who you are, it no longer projects itself forward into a future moment. From the perspective of the field, this is a clear transmission. A clear transmission does not surge. It does not spike with mood. It does not flicker with doubt. It remains steady. And this steadiness is what allows reality to move without resistance. Not because you asked in the right way, but because nothing within you is contradicting what is forming anymore. There is no inner friction, no emotional tug of war, no urgency pulling probability back into uncertainty. This is why this phase often feels unexpectedly quiet. There is no rush of excitement, no inner countdown, no sense of almost arriving. This quiet can feel unfamiliar to a mind that measures progress through emotional intensity. But stillness is not absence. Stillness is structure, and the structure is what the field can respond to. When your inner world becomes organized, outer events no longer need to reorganize you. They begin to organize themselves. You stop decoding every signal. Clarity stops needing interpretation. Reassurance no longer comes from explanations. It arrives through lived experience. At this depth, even the idea of manifesting starts to feel unnecessary. You are not steering reality. You are not negotiating with it. You are simply no longer obstructing its movement. This is where alignment becomes a way of being rather than a destination to reach. To stabilize this state, do not wait until you feel perfectly settled. Orientation comes first. Sensation follows. When attention is gently directed toward release, the nervous system begins to recognize safety without needing an outcome. And when safety becomes familiar, reality no longer has a reason to remain distant. After this state is stabilized, life does not approach with drama. It moves with quiet precision. What changes first is not what you see, but how separate you feel from what is unfolding. The sense of standing outside your life dissolves. You no longer feel positioned on one side of experience, waiting for it to move toward you. You feel inside the movement itself. This is the stage where a strange certainty arises. Not hope, not positive thinking, but a settled sense that what needs to happen is already being handled. From the surface, little may appear different. Your surroundings may look familiar. Your routines may continue unchanged. Yet internally, tension is absent. You are no longer counting time. You are no longer measuring your position against an imagined future. The inner clock has gone quiet. When the clock goes quiet, movement accelerates. This is another backward principle. Momentum does not come from pushing forward. It comes from removing internal drag. Drag is created by constant self-referencing, by narrating every step, by evaluating each moment for what it means. When that internal commentary softens, energy that was looping inward becomes available for movement. This is why shifts arrive without ceremony. An opening appears through a simple exchange. A choice becomes clear without debate. A connection forms without effort. A pathway reveals itself without struggle. And because there is no emotional charge gripping these moments, you allow them to complete their motion. Tension is what fractures coherence. When something appears and you immediately frame it as final, everything tightens. Pressure returns. The system contracts around expectation, but when something appears and you remain present without assigning a story to it, the system stays open. One movement flows into the next. This is where life begins to feel cooperative. Not flawless, not without complexity, but no longer oppositional. Challenges still arise, they simply resolve with less friction. You are no longer entangled with them, you are responding instead of resisting. Response carries efficiency. From a deeper perspective, this is probability completing its movement into form. Once coherence is sustained, outcomes no longer need to pass through layers of urgency or doubt. Things begin to find their place along the line of least resistance, not because you forced alignment, but because there is nothing inside you pushing against what is forming. This is why gratitude arises effortlessly here, not as a ritual, not as a technique, but as a natural response to the sense that nothing is being withheld. Even uncertainty changes its texture. It no longer feels like a threat to your stability. It becomes part of the landscape you can move through without losing your center. This is the real shift. Life does not suddenly deliver everything you once wanted. It simply stops feeling like it is holding anything back from you. The relationship transforms. You are no longer trying to extract outcomes from existence. You are participating in its motion. Those who live from this state often struggle to explain how things unfold for them. There is no method to point to, no dramatic turning point to describe, only a sustained absence of inner opposition. Once you feel this, you understand that the universe moving in reverse is not a trick. It is the natural result of coherence held long enough for reality to reorganize itself. Insight alone is never sufficient. Moments of clarity open doors, but stability is what determines how long those doors remain open. You can touch deep coherence and still drift back into subtle grasping as pressure returns. Responsibilities accumulate, uncertainty appears, and the nervous system reaches for familiar patterns of control. This is why it can seem as if alignment comes and goes, not because it disappears, but because it has not yet become the ground you stand on. The backward movement of reality asks for something precise: continuity without surveillance. It asks that you remain internally settled even when nothing visible changes for a while. The moment you begin to check whether you are still aligned, you have already stepped out of alignment. Life does not require supervision to unfold. This is the passage from understanding into embodiment, from knowing that non-need has power to living in a way where need no longer organizes your sense of self. Wanting does not vanish. It simply stops defining who you are. Outcomes are welcomed. They are no longer required for you to feel complete. This is where life begins to cooperate, not because you mastered a principle, but because you stopped resisting its design. Life becomes quieter here, not smaller, quieter in tone, less dramatic, less emotionally charged, and far more responsive. Arrivals happen without fanfare. Solutions appear without struggle. The urge to get somewhere dissolves. In its place, there is a steady movement that does not ask for your management. This is the state that is worth protecting, not through effort, through remembrance. The backward way of reality is not something to repeat as an idea. It is a posture to live from. Completion precedes arrival, and when you stop reaching toward a future moment, space opens for what is forming to reach you. Remain where you are. Nothing essential is missing.